Okay, item next, Representative Drazkowski. Representative Drazkowski moves House File 2833. I do not see any amendments. Do you have any amendments, Chair Drazkowski?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Please introduce your bill.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, House File 2833 focuses on tip income, and what it would do is provide a subtraction for tip income from the Minnesota income tax. Members, we are finding ways and looking at ways to help encourage our economy and encourage our younger workers and our beginning workers. This is one way to do it, and so I wanted to bring this forward as an opportunity for us to provide that incentive for people as they get going in the workplace. With that, Mr. Chair, we have Xavier Bickett here to talk about the bill further.
Welcome to committee. Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please, sir.
Yes, my name is Xavier Bickett, and I guess you could say I'm here to represent about 100,000 people who roll up their sleeves and work in Minnesota every day. And as Representative Drazkowski mentioned, this is an opportunity that we have to help the working class earn more money. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, this is from the Minnesota Department of Revenue, the Tax Research Division on August 14th of 2007. This is going to affect about 99,000 taxpayers. And not only that, but according to their statistics, it's about $2.3 billion of wages. And if you kind of average that out, this is going to be affecting people kind of in the lower class that earn about $23,469. So this is going to put more money into pockets of those people that are working every day. And this, when we talk about tax cuts and trying to help people, this isn't for CEOs or top-level executives. These are the people that are working, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics, people that are restaurant servers, bartenders, counter attendants, coffee shops, barbers, hairdressers, people that do pedicures, bellhops, taxi drivers, people that work for Uber. I have a few stories that I can share with you of kind of the people that this would be affecting. I talked to Abdi, he's an Uber driver in Minneapolis, and we talked about this. Like, how would you feel if you got to keep more of your tips? He said this would be great. He drives in Minneapolis for Uber at night so that his wife can watch his kids during the day, and this would just help put more money in his pocket. Annie, who's married in Bloomington, this helps not just poor people, but middle-class people as well. She's married in Bloomington. She has 4 kids. She has her cosmetology license. And just the healthcare costs for her kids, they hurt a lot. And so this is another way just to help ease that burden a little bit and help her make a living. My sister-in-law, who serves as a cosmetologist, she lives in Bloomington as well. They're looking at doing work on their house, and this extra money in her pocket, she says about 18% of her wages, or how much money she earns at the end of the year, comes from tips. This would help remodel her house and help improve her lifestyle. My sister, a few years ago, she's a single mother. She has 3 kids. She lives in West Bloomington, works in East Bloomington. And actually, she told me a story. I talked to her about this. Representative Lencheski, who once served on this committee, she said, she left a really good tip. And, some people say tips is, it depends on how good you serve. But, some people, they don't tip at all. It doesn't matter how good of a service you give. And with tips, it's not necessarily just a paid for service. You don't sign a contract for this. This isn't something you sign up for a salary. This is someone giving out of the goodness of their heart. It's sort of like a gift. At the federal level, gifts, they're not even taxed. But she told me a story about her mom, who also worked at the same restaurant. She actually lost money on her paycheck because the way the tax code is set up now is, someone can correct me, but the government assumes that you're getting tipped and they automatically take 8% out of your paycheck. She actually lost money because she didn't get any tips. Another person, Chad, who's a server at an Italian restaurant, and hopefully they're not watching it, but he's looking at popping the question. This may be a good opportunity to help save some money. But I know a lot of Chads. So, Cindy, a grandmother who works with her single mom, I bowl in Bloomington at Southtown, and she works 2 jobs to help take care of her granddaughter. And these are just opportunities that we can help people that work every day without worrying about tax breaks to the upper 1% or however we want to word it. This helps everyday people that on average make $23,000 a year. And I think this would go a long way to help. So lastly, I just want to say this really shouldn't affect the service industry too much. There's not too much that they would really have to do. According to this bill, it just prevents tips from being taxable income.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bickett? Okay, I have on my list here other testifiers, Dan McElroy from the Minnesota Restaurant Association and Wayne Lundberg. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify on behalf of this bill or with concerns? Would the department like to testify?
Very briefly.
Okay, oh, you can take as long as you want. Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Dan McElroy. I'm Executive Vice President of the Minnesota Restaurant Association. Our thanks to Representative Drazkowski for raising this issue and to the testifier to talk about the great men and women who work in our industry, often in tipped positions. I do have a couple of technical concerns. If we're reading the bill correctly, it authorizes a subtraction in 2018, but authorizes employers to adjust withholding in 2020. If this moves ahead, we got to reconcile those things. There is also a comment in the revenue note about level of compliance with the tip reporting requirement. I think historically that has been accurate, but it's changing dramatically as more and more of our guests pay by credit card and debit card, and the fastest growing form of payment is mobile pay on phones. Burger King told me several weeks ago that now more than 50% of their quick service volume is on cards or mobile pay. Table service restaurants, it's approaching 90% in many cases, a little more so in the metro area than in greater Minnesota, but the ability to track tips is greater. We hope that this provokes a discussion about tips more broadly. When I came to the Restaurant Association 7.5 years ago, about 50% of the volume in the restaurant industry was at table service, which is where the better tipping jobs are. There are certainly tips now at coffee shops and fast casual. They aren't large tips. They reflect the testifier's kind of level of income. However, we did a survey of 110 locations in Minneapolis for October of 2016, and they ranged from Perkins and the Malt Shop and some counter service, low average check restaurants up through the steakhouses and high average check. We were pleased to see that our kitchen members are working, or kitchen workers are making more than the minimum wage, but still not a lot, about $13 an hour. And the average tipped employee at 110 locations made $28.16 in tips. They don't work 40 hours. They work between 25 and 30 hours in those positions, but they're still good jobs. We're concerned that if the pressure, tips now count as income, they count for workers' comp, they count for unemployment, they don't count toward the minimum wage. There's a national momentum to recognize tips more. Hawaii passed a tip recognition law for the first time in 2016. Maine repassed their tip recognition law in 2017. The Seattle City Council included tips on a somewhat limited basis and with a sunset in 2023. But I think we're understanding that tips are real money. And we thank Representative Drazkowski for raising the question, how can we protect good paying tip jobs going forward without penalizing those who just earn a few tips? We'll have some ideas on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative Drazkowski.
Questions for Mr. McElroy? Thank you very much. Mr. Lundberg?
I'll pass it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. I think we go, anyone with concerns, we go to the department then. Welcome to the committee, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. For the record, my name is Paul Cumings, and I'm the Tax Policy Manager at the Minnesota Department of Revenue. I do not have additional cookies for Representative Drazkowski, but I was able to send a note to Representative Drazkowski yesterday. The bill allows a subtraction for tip income for individuals beginning in tax year 2018 and removes the requirement of withholding Minnesota income tax from tips for payroll periods after December 31st of 2019. From an administrative perspective, it's important to know that the department would not have the information on the amount of tips received by an individual and could not substantiate the subtraction amounts an individual possibly take. In addition, although the requirement to withhold income tax from tip income received as wages begins in 2020, the subtraction from the individual income tax begins in 2018. This may result in over-withholding from employees' regular pay that will need to be refunded in 2018 and 2019. The subtraction of tip income begins for tax year 18, however, will continue to withhold until 2020. Finally, I just wanted to note that this is a major deviation from how we currently treat income. It would also be a substantial deviation from the federal withholding requirements. While we have many Minnesota-only subtractions that exempt various items from the income tax, this would be the first major deviation from the withholding tax, potentially causing frustration and confusion for tax payers and tax preparers. This means that employers would then have to keep separate withholding records and thresholds for the federal government and state government. If this bill moves through the process, Mr. Chair, the Department of Revenue looks forward to working with you and Chair Drazkowski and staff. We appreciate the opportunity to come before the committee today.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Any questions for the department? Mr. Cummings, Chair Dabney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Cumings, Mr. McElroy raised the issue, but I'm wondering if you can speak more. What impact would this have on tipped employees' unemployment insurance compensation, were they to be laid off? And what effect would it have on their workers' comp, if any, if they're injured on the job?
Mr. Cummings.
Would it negatively affect them?
I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe Mr. Williams or Mr. Michael could.
Mr. Williams, or Mr. Michael?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Dabney, I don't think the income taxability of this income would have any effect on the coverage under those programs, although I'm not knowledgeable about workers' comp or unemployment comp, but that would be my instinct.
Chair Dabney.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, gentlemen.
Representative Hertaus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Cummins, as I listened to the testimonies about tipped income, is there a statutory definition of what a tip is? Is there any prohibition from tipping any other type of employee that provides a service? Or what would be the differentiation between a tip and a bonus?
Mr. Cummings.
I think I'll let Mr. Michael further expand on this, but there is a definition of what income is. And within that definition of an income, it does specify tips. So, and I think Mr. Michael will know probably the whole definition of what income is, so I will defer to Mr. Michael.
Mr. Michael.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Hertaus, the Representative Drazkowski's bill references definitions in federal law that apply to specifically reporting tipped income, and so the subtraction would be tied to those federal definitions for reporting tipped income. And so a bonus that's provided, that's paid by the employer would not be considered a tip under the bill.
Representative Hertaus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair Carlson.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm interested in what the impact would be on things like retirement. The reason I raise that question, when we talk about tipped income, we often talk about the restaurant industry because that's where the greatest number of employees are, but there are other occupations that, where you have tips as part of the income. And I'll use my father, who's long ago been deceased, but he was a tipped employee working for the railroad. And he used to say somewhat tongue-in-cheek, he would say, we have the lowest pay scale on the entire railroad, but we have among the highest seniority list. In other words, the tips were very good. But when he retired, his railroad retirement was based on his actual income, not including the tips. And so I would argue that he made very good money when he was raising 5 children because of the tips. But when he retired, my mother and my father did pay a price in the sense that they had a lower retirement because of the way the railroad retirement was calculated. So I just put that on the table as a personal anecdote, if you will, that you have to look at all occupations that might be subject to tips and also look at what the income might be on various fringe benefits and retirement and so on. Now, railroad retirement is somewhat similar to Social Security, but it is different. It's a different retirement system in its entirety, but it is based on your I don't remember if it was kind of like public employees with a high 5 or career average or what it was, but I think it may have been a career average.
Thank you, Chair Carlson. Any other questions for the department or the author?
Well, I did have
Chair
a
Carlson.
question in that if anybody had looked, if the author or anybody had looked at the impact on retirement, is my point in terms of advocating for the bill. I mean, you have people who work for hotels that may be the doorman, or they may be parking cars. There are all kinds of occupations that are subject to tip income, and often the employer kind of assumes that you're going to have a certain amount of income based on the tips. The man or woman who might work at a hat check situation in a restaurant or some other place. I mean, there's just a ton of different occupations, is my point. And so I think you have to look at things like the biggest one would probably be retirement, at least from my understanding.
Chair Drazkowski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And maybe Mr. Michael can correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that the way the bill is written, the tipped income is still viewable to the IRS and the Department of Revenue. We simply remove the tax, or actually provide a subtraction for the tax on that. And so there should still be full transparency of the amount of tip income earned, as I understand it. Mr. Michael.
Mr. Chairman, the IRS is one thing. My father always had to report his tip income to the IRS. But the way railroad retirement was calculated, that was a different question. That was based on your actual wages. And so being the lowest paid employees working for the railroad, in my example there, they got a smaller pension under railroad retirement. The tips were not counted as part of their income for retirement purposes. That's a different question than the IRS. He was always very careful to report his income to the IRS, and I assume to the state of Minnesota as well.
Chair Drazkowski, or Mr. Cumings?
Well, if I could, Mr. Chair,
Chair Drazkowski.
I think it's also a different question than this bill, but maybe Mr. Michael can answer it.
Mr. Michael?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Carlson, it's hard for me to conceive how this bill will have much effect on participation in or the amount that's put into retirement savings. I suppose it could in this sense. But first of all, I would say almost all tipped employees, probably very few tipped employees are in, old-fashioned defined benefit pension plans. You're right that to the extent railroad employees like, Pullman porters and that kind of thing, yeah, I suppose there are some of those, and they have their own defined benefit system that replicates Social Security and a private pension, and none of that's going to be affected by any of this. Most people in the service industry, I would guess, are either in 401k plans or have no retirement plan at all and have to save on their own in their own IRAs. What this bill does is simply reduce their Minnesota income tax on that. You could conceive, I suppose, that may lead somebody to mistakenly not contribute as much to their IRA or their 401k as they otherwise would. It's probably equally plausible that now they have more disposable income, and so they may increase their contributions to their 401k and so have more retirement security. So I'm not sure. I don't think this really probably will affect very much the retirement.
Well, Mr. Chairman, that's why I raised the question, if anybody had looked at that aspect, although I'll have to think that through. Social Security is based on, in part, your benefits on your income. So depending on how that income is calculated is my point, and I don't want to belabor the question. It was basically, my question was, would there be an impact on retirement for some occupations?
Mr. Michael?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Carlson, that we can sort of respond more directly to, because this bill simply exempts the state income tax, the FICA tax, which will determine what your Social Security, your AME is, will be unaffected by this. And so the FICA tax will still be paid, and it will be in your Social Security earnings record, and these tipped employees will get the same Social
Well,
Security benefits.
Mr. Chairman, that answers the question then. That would answer my concern then, that it would not be a negative impact on retirement. Thank you.
Okay. I think we've got this. We're good. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Cummings. You want to wrap it up there, Chair Drazkowski? We have another bill to get to here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Great bill. It's would amount to about 10% of the current biennium's projected over collection of people's money, and it would impact people who work very hard, and we could provide some additional incentive too by letting them keep more of their money. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair Drazkowski. Chair Drazkowski renews his motion that House File Number 2833 be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus taxable item. Next, thank you, Chair Drazkowski.